Right, streets leading to the Polokwane Circuit Court have been closed to traffic ahead of Julius Malema's court appearance today. The NPA will announce whether it'll pursue prosecution or drop all charges against him. Let's go to live visuals of that. Now, there you see Julius Malema entering the court precinct in a light grey suit. He arrived just a few moments ago. Cathy Mohlahlana is standing by for us outside the court. Cathy, there we see Julius Malema entering the court precinct. He does seem as confident as he was last week when he walked out of that hearing.
Well, absolutely still as confident as he was last week, and particularly about the fact that the state will decide to drop the charges against him and withdraw the case completely, Joanne. Of course, in a matter of moments, he will know what exactly the state's position is. If they decide to continue with the prosecution, Joanne, that means that he'll be back here in September on the 30th in 2014 for his trial to actually now get underway. Now, if they decide to not prosecute, or rather the other option that they have, Joanne, in this scenario is that they could also just ask for a postponement in terms of studying the request to actually have the charges against him withdrawn. Now, we know that he's brought on a legal mind that has represented Glenn Agliotti in the Cable murder trial, Lawrence Hodis, and he's representing him this morning. And so we understand that they've already met with the prosecution team, and by now they probably have a clear idea of how today is going to go.
Just once more for the benefit of viewers, won't you take us through the charges that Julius Malema is facing?
Well, Joanne, the charges he's facing are charges of corruption, fraud, money laundering and racketeering, and these are linked to alleged kickbacks that he received from On Point Engineering, which is a company that was contracted with a 52 million rand tender from the Limpopo Department of Roads and Transport, Joanne. And this happened, what they accused of really is having misrepresented themselves to that department and thus securing the tender. But Malema is said to have received about 4 million rand from On Point Engineering in kickbacks, and this money was allegedly used to buy a Mercedes-Benz, one of the farms that he had in Limpopo, which has now been repossessed, or rather, which was attached by SARS. And so it's all really linked to that case. And at the core of the state's case is also going to be a forensic report that was conducted by PwC, which really details how they believe the cash flow made its hands from the department through awarding this contract and ultimately into the hands of Malema. Now, he does have 4 other co-accused, but they're not part of this particular case today.
Do we have any idea on what grounds Malema will ask for the charges against him to be dropped?
Well, he's simply saying that the state doesn't have enough evidence to prove that he was in fact linked to On Point Engineering, and that he did in fact benefit illegally from them. He has, of course, conceded that his Ratanang Trust does have shares in On Point Engineering, but he's saying that, he wasn't involved in day-to-day operations of the company. He can't account for how they went about securing tenders and deals, and so he believes that it would be unfair for him to be charged in that regard. And of course, his lawyer, when preparing for high-profile cases, is somebody who's known to really interrogate the processes of the state in the run-up to the trial. And we're expecting that he will poke serious holes in the state's case and really try and show that they don't have enough evidence to actually continue with the case against him.
Cathy, we see bits of that large crowd that we saw gathered outside the courtroom last week that have returned for Julius Malema's appearance today. What have they been saying about their support for him?
Joanne, some of these supporters have been here since late yesterday. They held a night vigil for him at the town's city hall. And, they've been singing and chanting as they are right now since early this morning too. They seem pretty convicted about the fact that Malema is innocent. They're really buying into his rhetoric that he's just being the victim of a political agenda, which is now being fought out through the courts. And many of them say that they're willing to to stand behind him and really give him their support until this is through. Now, of course, it comes as, he's launched this new political party, which is going to be contesting the elections next year. And so one would think that many of them could be anxious about, having a leader that faces possible jail time, but that's not anything that they're necessarily concerned about. Many of them say that, even if he's running the EFF from behind a prison cell, they wouldn't mind that situation, because they believe that should it ultimately result in that, he would still be the victim of a political agenda or political game that is being leveled through this corruption case.
Cathy Mohlahlana, thanks very much for that update from outside the Polokwane Circuit Court.
News that moves. eNCA.com.